Hi, it's Cassie with Cassy's Parlor. Today we are going to play with Grafix shrink film. Not just any shrink film, this is the Inkjet version. So I have clear and I have white, and I'm going to show you a couple of projects using both of them so you can see the differences between them and get some ideas on some really great ways that you can use this shrink film in your card making and paper crafting and so many different projects. So this is the white, and I've printed this really pretty flower on here. I've done it twice because we're going to do some layering, but so you just run this through your inkjet printer. I set it aside and let it dry for just a moment, but there we go on the white. I've also printed on paper because we're going to shrink this, and I want you to see how much it shrinks from the original size. Okay, same thing here. I've printed on regular paper so we can see the original size of the print, and you can see here they're the same. And this is on the clear, so it's kind of translucent, you know. It's really, really beautiful and effective for a lot of different things. But the other cool thing is, so we're gonna cut these out, and I'm gonna save the strip so you can see the difference in the translucency from when it's this full sheet versus when it is shrunk. And again, this was just run through my inkjet printer, let it sit and dry for just a minute, and then you're ready to go. And you know, it's not going anywhere. It's so amazing and fun. Think of all of the things that you have on your computer. You can do images of your family or friends. You can do just any sort of graphic, anything that you can print on your inkjet printer will work for this technique. So the first thing I'm gonna do is cut these out so that we can shrink them. When you're going to use shrink film, if you're doing any cutting or punching holes or anything like that, make sure you do it before you shrink it, because after it's shrunk, it's a very thick, hard plastic. So here, you know, you can kind of bend it. It feels almost like a thick piece of paper or, you know, vellum type thing. But once you shrink it, it is very hard and thick. And if you try to cut it after it's shrunk, there's a good chance it could crack or break in a way that is not pleasing for you. So I'm saying if you want to cut out anything, or if you want to punch a hole so you can make it into an ornament or a zip pull or whatever, just make sure you're doing it before you shrink it. All right, so I'm cutting out each of these just with regular scissors. It cuts just fine. And I'm leaving a little bit of a border because I just like that look, but you can also cut right on the edge, which I will do with that flower piece. This one I kind of want to have a little bit of a border, but it definitely works both ways, and you can decide based on your project and what you're going to do with it. So these smaller pieces here, that the ones I'm cutting out now, you could use these as like backpack zipper pulls or jackets or anything like that. You can make them into brooches or pins, like for your jacket or your shirt or whatever. You can have it be an ephemera piece for an art journal, or a mixed media piece of art, or a card topper, or I mean, truly endless possibilities. I really love this inkjet shrink film because I can print whatever I want from my computer, right? So it's not, I mean, the other shrink film, including this one, you can stamp on it, you can do lots of things to it, but this one you can print from your printer, and it doesn't have to be a laser printer. Everybody has an inkjet printer at home. We can all print whatever we want, and then cut it out, and then shrink it, and then make it into any kind of project we want. So I think that's really amazing. Imagine printing, family photos from a trip or something, and making a nice home decor piece with this. That would be very cool. Or ornaments for Christmas. I mean, so many ideas. All right, so this one I'm going to cut on the line. And actually, I'd like it to be straight, so why don't we get our cutter out. I just have my paper trimmer here, and I'm going to cut just inside the line. I don't want any of the clear showing through. You can see that it goes through the paper trimmer just fine. And this will give us a nice straight cut. Okay, so we've got this beautiful piece. It looks kind of big, but remember it's going to shrink down. So whatever you're making, remember you need to make it bigger than you want it to be in the end. I'm going to keep this scrap so we can compare that translucency. All right, and so these clear pieces are ready to go. I don't need to punch any holes in them or anything. So this one, I am going to cut out. I try to keep the excess scraps or the extra scraps too, because I can always, you know, this can't be run through an inkjet printer once I cut into it anymore, but I can still stamp on it or do whatever I want with it, and then use all of the scraps here to shrink as well and make something else. So I really do try not to waste any of it, or very little, to, you know, just to get the most use out of it as I can. So this one I'm going to cut on the line. I don't want any white showing, and I'm definitely not an expert fussy cutter, so I'm doing the best I can here. But it's gonna shrink down, it's gonna be just fine. Okay, so I have this first one cut out. I did an okay job, a little bit hard around those curves there, but again, no big deal. It looks good to me. I am going to cut out, now for the second one, I'm just going to cut out some of the inner flower with the face, okay? And that's it, because I just want that part to be layered up. I think that'll be super cute. So, okay, so now I have just the center, which lines up here, and then the full flower. So we're going to put all of these in the oven next, and flatten them out and shrink them down, and then we'll see what we have. You can also do some of this type of work, some, you know, medium to smaller pieces you can do with a heat gun, but it's really fast to use an oven and just let the oven do the work for you. And I've had 100% great results that way. Sometimes with the heat gun, it can curl up, and if it touches each other when it's curling, you almost never can get it to lay back flat. So I just really like to use the oven. That's my preference. But if you want to try and use a heat gun, you know, absolutely you can try that. So I have, this is a cookie sheet. You can see it's old and dingy, but I only use it for crafting things. So it's just my craft cookie sheet, and I use it for this, or for, you know, for clay, baking clay, things like that. I do have a piece of parchment paper down here, and that is going to obviously protect it and keep it from sticking to anything. You notice I'm giving a little bit of room between each of the pieces. Let me put this sideways here. So I've got a little bit of room between each of the pieces. They've got room to sort of like curl up and move around. The other really important piece to this, if you're going to use the oven, which I really recommend, is that you put another piece of parchment paper over the top, and make sure you still have room around everything, okay? And you're because this is going to help when it's in the oven and it's kind of curling up a little bit and bubbling and then flattening back out. It's going to keep it from curling up on itself. This provides just a tiny bit of weight to keep it protected and nice and flat, okay? So then when you take it out, I'm going to go put this in my oven, but when I take it out, I also I have a silicone mat, or even if you have like a glove or something like that, and I just kind of press it down. If I see any anywhere where it's not nice and flat, I just press it down a little bit while it's still hot and make sure it's flat. Definitely be careful. This is, you know, we're cooking this at between 300 and 350 degrees for about 3 minutes. And your oven may vary, so you'll just want to do a test piece first to see what is the right temperature and time for you, but that's the range between 300 and 350 degrees and 2 to 3 minutes. And that also says it on the back of the packaging, so you don't have to remember that. But just be really careful when you're taking it out. If you see, you know, if you see that it's kind of wobbly in a spot, don't press with your hand. This is very hot. Use some sort of protection. Make sure you keep yourself safe. But otherwise, we are good to go. I will be back in a moment with these shrunk. Okay, so now we've shrunk everything. Look at how darling and adorable they all are. My gosh, I'm so excited. But first, before we make anything out of them, I want to do a couple things. Number one, we're going to compare the original size to the finished size. And let's do the white first. Okay, so this was the original size of that flower, and you see why I made it so big? Look at how much smaller it is once you shrink it. It shrinks to 20% of its original size. So if you do the math, you can figure out kind of how big you want it to be in the end. That's how you would figure out how big the initial image needs to be. And look at also that it gets a little darker. Look at how much darker the face is from here to here, because that ink is like shrinking down and all of those pieces are getting closer together. Look at how much darker the leaves are, even the flower petals, so pretty. And the crispness and the detail, I mean, look in the eyes, you can still see those tiny little dots. Really, really beautiful. And then it's also very important to make sure, if you're going to layer like I am here, that both of these are the same size, so that when they shrink down, they will still layer properly and be the same size. Okay, so we'll play with this one first since we're right here. And I'm just going to use some 3D glue that I have that works really well, and we're just going to layer this up. And then this could be, you know, on a card or whatever. So I'm just putting some 3D glue, it's like a thick gel glue, over the top of this, and I'm going to line up where those petals are. And I'm not going to press down very hard because I really want this to be kind of dimensional. And I could have actually, like I was saying earlier, I think I could have done the face again and had 3 layers, but look at how pretty that is, and that dimension just really makes it great. Think about this as an ephemera piece for a project. I mean, it's so easy. You just print it, cut it out, shrink it. You could make 20 of these, you know, all at once. You can die cut out of this material too. So if you don't want to do the fussy cutting and you've got a stamp and die set, maybe you could stamp a bunch of things, die cut them out, put them all on a cookie sheet, throw them in the oven for 3 minutes. 3 minutes at 350 is what I use. And it's literally perfect when it comes out. So how cute is that? So that is the first one. These two are super cute. I like to make these into pins. So I would just take the same glue and put the pin backs on them. And then you would have cute little pins. And of course, they can be in whatever pattern or style you like. But let's also compare the sizes for these, just so you can get a good idea of how much they shrink. So here we go. So this is the original, and look at how much smaller that piece is. Same here. So I think this is a really powerful tool to really show you the size comparison. But also look at, you know, it's a little bit darker, but just, I'm always amazed by the crispness and the level of detail that is achieved with these inkjet printable shrink film sheets. I'm so awesome, and the richness of the color and everything comes through. Now this is the clear. Right? I saved a piece so we can see the difference. So let's see. Here on this sheet that hasn't been shrunk yet, you can see the grid from my mat here underneath. You can see through it. It's frosty. It's not completely clear, but it's translucent. This one, you can no longer see that underneath there. But if we compare it to the white, oh, I forgot I already glued it. Oh, shoot. But if we compare it to the white, this still has a frostiness to it, and it still has a little, it's not transparent anymore. You know, you can't really see, I mean, you can almost, can you see my finger moving? You can kind of just a little bit see it, but not very much. But this one definitely, obviously you wouldn't, because it's opaque white. That's the difference. This is very slightly translucent once it shrinks down. And then the color is just a little bit, a tiny bit less vibrant because it's a clear film. Something that's really fun to do with these is to put a color of paint behind here. So actually, let's do that with this one, and I'll show you the difference. But I wanted to show you the difference between not shrunk and after it shrunk. And then really quick, this one, I mean, again, you can kind of see my finger back here behind the, moving behind this, but it's very, it's a lot less transparent once it's shrunk. But I love this because it almost, it's like a thick vellum kind of. It has that look and feel. It just feels very delicate and just has a different sort of tone and feeling to it. So this will go on a card. We'll make a card out of that real quick. So really quick though, before we move on, I just want to show you some fun things you can do with the clear piece. So I've got fluorescent magenta paint here from Golden, and I am just, look at that paint. I mean, this is literally my favorite color in the whole wide world. So I'm just gonna put it on the back of the Girl Power one, just so you can see the difference. Just, you know, so you have different ideas and ways that you can use these products. I think they're just really fantastic. And once I started playing with them and really getting to know them, you know, shrink film to me before was kind of like, you know, it's fun for zipper pulls and kid projects and stuff like that. But once I started playing with it with a paper crafting and sort of mixed media mindset, I mean, it just opened up so many possibilities. And it doesn't matter what kind of art you're into, you know, like I was saying, I could use this in a journal page. It's flat enough. It's not gonna, you know, as long as you're not putting it on every page, it's not going to affect, you know, make your book too bulky. You can put it on the journal cover. You can put it on a you know, layered mixed media piece. You can put it on a card front, which we're about to do. You can make jewelry out of it. I mean, think about making earrings out of this stuff. Print, you know, print whatever image you want, cut it out, shrink it, make it into jewelry. That would be amazing. So the other thing to note though, when I'm just thinking of the jewelry bit, is if you're gonna punch holes, I would highly recommend getting a few different size hole punchers. And probably if you're doing jewelry, you're gonna want maybe like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch circle punch, but definitely test it yourself. Just get like a scrap piece of this and punch holes and then write 1, 2, 3 or whatever and know what they are, and then shrink them down so that you can see what size hole you actually are going to want once it's shrunk down. So just do some testing for yourself. But look at this. Okay, this is wet still, obviously, so I can't set it down. Look at the difference though. You could put yellow or any kind of bright color and really lift that up even more. I just think it's really fun to have that versatility, to be able to paint behind it and have it kind of show through a little bit. So that's a really fun technique as well. So I'm gonna put these off to the side and let that one dry. And now let's just finish with making this into a quick little card. I wanna show you how quick and easy, once, you know, I cut this even with the cutting mat. So I didn't even have to fussy cut. I printed it, I cut it with the cutting mat, I put it in the oven for 3 minutes, and now I'm gonna make a card with it. It's going to be totally unique and very amazing and beautiful, okay? Let's also look at the size difference. Look at that. You saw how big this was, and I'm like, I wonder if that's gonna be too big. Now, so we went from, let me tell you the actual size, okay? So I went from, this image is 5.5, I'm gonna measure it exactly here, 5.5 by 8, okay, is this original image, and it shrunk down to 2.5 by 3.5, all right? So that is how much it shrunk. So I'm just saying a little bit of practice so that you get used to how much it's gonna shrink down depending on what you're gonna use it for. But now I think it's gonna fit perfectly on this card front. Isn't that nice? So I'm just using this, I believe this is a 4x6 card. Let me double check here. Yeah, 4x6 once it's folded, just piece of cardstock. And then we are gonna make a fun, quick card out of this. Okay, so to make my card, I've cut a piece of this really pretty, like a brushed gold kind of, so pretty, cardstock here, and that is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So it can just layer behind this, and look at, oh, it just gives it like a glow and a really nice frame around the edge there. So we're gonna use this And I'm not even going to put a sentiment on here. This is going to stick in the middle. I've got some seam binding that I will put around the edge and just make a nice knot in. This is very white, so just to kind of go with the theme that we've got here, I'm going to use some Wild Honey archival ink, just a little pad, and I'm just going to dinge this up a little bit. It's just a little bit too white for me for this project, and I want it to look sort of antique like the rest of it. So just brushing this along. It dries pretty quick because it's archival ink, and it's not going to come off. This is just some seam binding ribbon. And I like that it's not even or whatever. It's just kind of distressy and antique looking, which is the look that we're going for, right? And look at how pretty that is now. So I'm going to just make a bow, or a knot in this. It just adds a little bit more delicate feature and accent to the project. Ooh, that Wild Honey is so pretty, isn't it? Okay, so there we go. And then I am going to just cut this here. I'm going to use this 3D gel glue to stick this onto the paper backing, just to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And to give it a little bit more dimension. It already is pretty dimensional because of its thickness, but I just want to give it a little bit more and center it on that paper. Oh, look at how pretty that is. I'm so excited. Okay, and then we're just going to stick this down to our card base, but first we have to do the ribbon here. All right, for this ribbon, I'm going to use some double-sided tape. That will work well. Just going to put it right onto the paper. Usually I put it onto the ribbon, but this will work great. It'll be nice and easy. I love when I can make a beautiful, simple card, because then you can mass produce it if you wanted to sell this, or if you were sending maybe an invitation or birthday, anniversary kind of thing, whatever it is. And it can obviously be in any style. Then it's nice to have a beautiful, simple card that you can make a lot of them. Okay, and I'm going to use nice sharp scissors to cut right to the edge here. There we go. That is super pretty. And then I am also going to use this one more time just around the edges here. I could use my double stick tape for this part. That would work great as well. It's just paper to paper at this point. And then I'm going to center this, or not really center it, but put it where I want it. I want it slightly off center. There we go. That looks good to me. Gently press, make sure it's going to stick, and look at how pretty that is. I do also have some jewels here. Okay, these are really pretty. They're almost like a really vintagey, like coppery pink almost. It's a very interesting color that I'm not used to. I'm going to put one right in the middle there. That will be super pretty. Uh-oh, it just stuck to me here. Here we go. I might get a little tiny dot of this glue. Make sure that's not going to go anywhere. In a very small amount, just to make sure those aren't going to go anywhere, and for placement. So I'm going to use a slightly bigger pearl. Maybe if I can get it to stay here. Here we go. This color is just so pretty, and it works so well with the card that I can't help myself. Here we go. Okay. All right, make sure these are nice and straight. There we go. So yeah, this is, it can be as simple or as complex and detailed as you want it to be. But here, let me show you our final project. So this was made with the clear shrink film, as was this, and this is pretty well dry by now. Look at the difference when you put color behind it versus not, and using it in a card. And of course these can be made into pins or whatever you like with the white shrink film, and layering it up to make a really cute layered flower piece that definitely could sit on top of a card or be an ephemera piece for mixed media or whatever kind of crafting you like to do. So let me dig up these one more time under all of my crafty goodies here, just so I can show you. We've got the clear and the white. They will say Inkjet at the top, and you can, there's some fun projects here on the cover. And also on the back, I just want to show you really quick the instructions. So everything I went through as far as the temperature and the amount of time and, you know, tips for if it's curled and things like that, are on the back of the packaging. So you don't have to memorize what I just said. You definitely can look up there. It will give you great tips. And here are some really fun ways that you can use this inkjet shrink film from Grafix. So I hope that you found some inspiration. If you want to learn more about Grafix products, please visit graphicarts.com and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.